You ever open your pantry, see something you bought forever ago, and ask yourself, is this even still good? Well, maybe, and in some cases, definitely yes. There's a whole category of foods out there that, if stored right, basically never expire. We're talking years, decades, even millennia. Some of these are survival staples. Others are just everyday foods hiding in plain sight. But they all share one thing. They laugh in the face of expiration dates. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of everlasting foods. What makes them last, how they're used, and what it all means for prepping, sustainability, and everyday life. The fascination with everlasting foods. Let's be real, humans have always been a little obsessed with preservation. Before we had refrigerators and vacuum sealers, we had salt, smoke, and sun drying. We had root cellars and clay jars. And guess what? Some of those ancient methods work so well, we're still using them today. Take honey, for example. Archaeologists have literally found pots of honey in Egyptian tombs thousands of years old, and they're still perfectly edible. That's not just impressive, it's kind of magic. Or, well, science. The reason honey lasts so long? It's low in moisture, naturally acidic, and loaded with natural compounds that make it nearly impossible for bacteria to survive. Foods like this have become more than just curious cases, they're tools. Long shelf life means more reliable food storage, less waste, and more flexibility when you're stocking up for emergencies. And let's be honest, in a world where supply chains can be unpredictable, there's something comforting about knowing that your food doesn't have a ticking clock. Why this matters. Here's the big picture. Foods that don't expire can reshape how we think about food storage, prepping, and waste. Think about how much food gets thrown out because it might be bad, or how often people feel they need to buy fresh only to watch it wilt by midweek. Knowing which foods truly last can help you stretch your grocery budget, build a rock-solid emergency pantry, reduce waste in your home, and prep smarter for the long haul. And for preppers, these foods aren't just nice to have. They're the bedrock of long-term food storage. They don't need to be rotated as often. They're dependable. And in a grid-down situation, dependability is everything. How Never Expire actually works. Now, before we go any further, let's clear something up. When we say a food never expires, we're not talking about it staying fresh forever. We're talking about it staying safe and edible for a very long time, as long as it's stored correctly. What makes that possible with the tea? Usually it comes down to a few simple factors. Low moisture, less water, there's less chance for bacteria to grow. An acidity, which helps preserve and ward off spoilage. Sealed or low oxygen environments. Think vacuum sealed, canned, or naturally preserved. No fat or oil, which can go rancid over time. These conditions make it hard for spoilage organisms to survive, keeping food shelf stable for the long haul. And you don't need a lab to make it work. Just some basic knowledge and solid storage habits. The superstars of shelf life. All right, let's get into the good stuff. Here's some common and not so common foods that can last forever if you treat them right. Honey, we've already talked about this one, but it's worth repeating. Honey is basically immortal. Just keep it sealed and out of sunlight. If it crystallizes, warm it up gently. You're good to go. White rice. Stored in airtight containers and kept cool and dry, white rice can last 30 years or more. Brown rice, not so much. It has oils that eventually go bad. Salt. As long as it stays dry, salt doesn't spoil. That's why it's been used for centuries as a preservative. Just make sure it's stored away from moisture. Sugar. Same story here. White sugar, brown sugar, even powdered sugar. When kept dry and sealed, they'll outlive all of us. Pure maple syrup, unopened. Kept in a cool, dark spot, you've got a natural sweetener that stays stable for years. Hardtack, aka survival bread. This one's been used in wars and expeditions for centuries. It's dry, it's dense, it's not winning any flavor contests, but it'll keep you alive. And then you've got things like bouillon cubes, dry beans, dehydrated or freeze-dried foods, instant coffee, white vinegar, pure vanilla extract. All of these built to last. The catch. Now, before you go turning your pantry into a time capsule, let's pump the brakes. These foods might last forever, but that doesn't mean they're immune to the environment. Heat, moisture, pests, and time can still do damage. Mold, infestations, and oxidation don't care how legendary your food's shelf life is. That's why storage matters just as much as the food itself. Use Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, mason jars with tight lids, vacuum-sealed containers, cool, dark, dry storage areas. Check your supplies once in a while. Rotate when needed. And when in doubt, trust your senses. If it smells off, looks weird, or shows signs of spoilage, toss it. Why it matters for preppers. For most people, knowing a few non-expiring foods is just interesting trivia. But for us, it's a mindset shift. When you know which foods won't betray you in a crisis, you waste less, spend smarter, and prep with confidence. These aren't just cool facts, they're tools. They give you a foundation, a backup plan, and maybe even a little peace of mind. Because when the lights go out, the grocery store's empty, or you just need to make it through the week without spending a dime. This is the kind of knowledge that feeds families. So what's in your pantry that'll stand the test of time? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what foods you trust to stick around for the long haul. And hey, if this helped you out, give it a like, subscribe for more practical prepping tips, and share it with someone who still thinks honey expires. Remember, being prepared isn't about panic, it's about peace of mind.